You know, real quick, I gotta say, the new War Sales update, it's gonna break every mod. It's gonna break every single mod, probably, but it'll be worth it. Right?
Got a list. From brutal boarding to full-scale naval invasions, here's what I want to see when War Sales drops later this year. After years of updates and incremental changes, Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord is about to get its biggest shift yet, away from the dusty roads and mountain passes and out onto the open seas. War Sales promises a whole new layer to the campaign. Ships, ports, storms, blockades and naval combat, but this isn't just a change of scenery. No. It's a change of scope. And whilst we know some features are for certain, the magic comes from imagining what is truly possible if Tailwars really lets this expansion breathe. This is what this video is about. A mix of confirmed features, practical hopes, and pure, slightly mad fantasy. Sure, but this is my wishlist for War Sales. Let's start with the most obvious change. The sea itself. We know War Sales will feature realistic wind, ocean currents, and weather. That's not just a visual polish as well. It means navigation is a skill. A strong wind at your back can carry you to safety. A sudden shift can trap you in hostile waters. Storms aren't just dressing anymore. They affect speed, visibility, and maybe even morale. But for me, a living sea goes beyond the weather system. Imagine random encounters. A drifting wreck with valuable cargo if you dare to stop. A pirate galley lurking in a fog bank. A noble stranded on a barren spit of land, offering ransom for rescue. This map could have unique regions just like deserts or tundra with thick fog banks and swallowing fleets. Iceberg fields that force slow maneuvering. Volcanic coasts where legends say old gods dwell. And once in a blue mood, a shadow beneath your hull. Too big to be a ship, just to keep your imagination sharp. Sure, Mount & Blade isn't a fantasy game. It is based within a fantasy world, but really very much staying within reality in basically any other way. However, having the legends that were really brought to life by the tales of old could be interesting. Not necessarily going full mythical beast, but at least stories. At least people that you can find along the way that tell you these tales. Maybe tall tales, but maybe there is some truth to some of them. Of course, the real selling point is the combat. This has been a part of every Mount & Blade game ever. What's confirmed so far is boarding, ramming, and the ability to disable oars or sails within a fight. That's already a pretty strong base, but you see, Bannerlord's combat seems to shine when it's seamless, and that needs to carry over to the sea. No fade to black.
It is seamless. It is some of the best combat for sure.
You sail alongside, throw a grappling hook, and step across the gap just like mounting a horse. Fighting on deck should be tight, chaotic, full of sudden danger. A crossbowman dropping from the rigging, an enemy captain lunging through the smoke. And it can't just be one ship against one ship. No. Fleet battles need a commanding layer. You telling two galleys to pin an enemy flagship whilst your heavier triremes ram their flank. Even siege mechanics can make the jump. Catapults slinging boulders from deck to deck, or firepots that turn a patch of ocean into a killing ground. We don't want a recreation of what Skull and Bones did. You know, teasing boarding and then just having it as a cutscene. Mount & Blade War Sales is already telling us that they're going to give us more than that, but let's just see how in-depth they can go. You see,
listen, I don't think we can quite compare it to Skull and Bones, because Bannerlord has also shown us, like, we know the combat. We know what we're getting ourselves into. We've had from Tail Worlds, we've had naval combat. So I don't know if it's quite fair to compare the two. I hope it's great. I think it'll be great. But we have had ships. We know that it'll at least be decent, let's say that.
Flavor of this expansion. The Nords are confirmed as a new faction. They're going to be the naval powerhouse.
The
It
Nords!
fits their history and aesthetic perfectly. But the others shouldn't just be copy-pasted. The Empire could have massive oar-driven triremes, arms to the teeth. The Azrai could lean sand-hued corsairs built for speed and ambush. Sturgia could build ice-reinforced longships that shrug off ramming damage and deliver brutal boarding parties. Even minor factions can come into their own. Pirate brotherhoods running ragged but vicious vessels, or merchant republics guarding treasured convoys with elite marines. The little extra depth could come from the naval culture perks. Maybe the Nords lose less morale in storms, Azrai close faster in boarding actions, or the Empire holds formation better in rough seas. These are all things that are mostly speculation, but we do know that each faction is going to be adapted for the naval expansion. From some of the Twitter and Instagram videos that have been released, we've had a small look into what the Crusade ships could look like, or even the Azrai ports, and these are really nice extra features. But naval power means nothing without an economy to support it. Ports, shipyards, and trade routes are already confirmed, but the sea could reshape the game's economy in a far more dynamic way. A blockade on a major port should starve the cities behind it. Trade goods should spike in value after a shipwreck or enemy raid. Smuggling could become a high-risk or high-reward career. Sneaking banned goods into enemy harbors, bribing officials to look the other way. There's so much room for livelihoods beyond this warfare too. Fishing fleets supplying cities, salvaging crews, dragging treasure from the deep. Honest merchants braving pirate-infested waters, and for for the less honest, outright ship raiding, you could, hit enemy cargo, loot ports, disable, and disappear into the fog before retaliation arrived. This is about affecting the whole economy of the game through your actions over the fleets, and not just, the actual physical thing of being able to attack ships. You see, campaign integration is where this expansion could truly make the sea part of the grand strategy. We know that fleets will be able to blockade and support sieges, but imagine multi-stage naval campaigns. You take a contract to disrupt enemy supply lines. You intercept their convoys, blockade their ports, land troops to raid their coastal villages, and eventually push inland to claim their towns. Villages could have unique coastal events, evacuations ahead of the incoming fleets, sabotage missions to weaken harbour defences, even refugee vessels you can escort or rob, and diplomacy could stretch onto the water. Naval embargoes, safe passage treaties, or paid production for trade fleets. In the right hands, maritime power could shift the balance of Caradia without even a single land battle. You could become a completely seafaring nation without even having to do the original Mount and Blade gameplay. And that's what excites me the most about this. You see, there are the people that make this happen. Some of the new additions. There'll be marine troops within. There'll be certain buffs that you can give NPCs, whether they're better at navigating seas or how well they are at actually fighting on board these vessels. You'll have your crew and your companions. War Sales will bring in maritime skills and sea-ready companions for this specific need, but there's room to make them feel like real characters. I think this is something that Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord doesn't have. It doesn't really have the iconic NPCs that maybe even Warband had. Yet even that game, the irony is the iconic NPCs kind of just came from memes rather than actual character depth. A seasoned sea captain within War Sales might keep your crew steady in storms. This means that they'll grow restless in long calms. Morale events could trigger mutinies or inspire loyalty after daring victory. Long voyages could bring random crises, disease outbreaks, food shortages, encounters with strange foreign traders. Small narrative touches like ship logs or crew journals to make each campaign feel personal. A story worth retelling even after the game's over. And this is something that I really want to delve in with War Sales, having more depth. You see, we've asked for this for quite some time, and War Sales is the perfect opportunity for Tales to really address it, to add more personalization within the campaigns, feel like you're playing a story and not just this huge sandbox.
I think it's too late for that.
Bannerlord's greatest strength is also its weakness, and that's its scale. It brings you these huge armies and the ability to take over vast arrays of land, but it stops you from the personal stories and really getting to know your people. You've got hardcore mode in now where actual NPCs and companions can die, even you or your offspring can be killed, but it doesn't really matter. You don't feel like you've lost anything because there's another faceless goon just to take up their place, and that seems to be coming around more often than not. But another one of Bannerlord's greatest strengths is its modding scenes, and War Sales can hand them an entirely new playground. New systems, weather, stealth, events. These will already feed modders' ideas, but full naval modding support would unleash something bigger. Custom ships, open maps, AI fleet behaviors, maybe even fantasy settings with leviathans and cursed islands. And if multiplayer gets on the action, imagine custom fleet battles where clans wage sprawling wars at sea, or tournaments where crews compete to sink each other in timed matches. Maybe even the combined siege and naval battles within multiplayer as well. The vision is huge, and that's what I want for War Sales. A sea that feels alive, combat that feels raw and physical, factions that bring their own style to the water, economies that rise and fall with these tides, and stories that go within them, both scripted and emergent dynamic ones. That's what makes you care about what happens out there. Now, a lot of these features are already promised, but there's a lot more that Tale Wars could be doing, and I really hope they do, to find that magic that this expansion could bring. If Tale Wars gets this right, War Sales won't just be Bannerlord's biggest expansion. It could be the one that makes you wonder how the game ever existed without it.
In regards to adding more content, I mean, yeah, obviously I want more content. I want more quests. I want more interesting NPCs, more unique locations. To be honest, one of the biggest things that I've been wanting, and I hope they do that with this War Sales update, is that I think when you pick a culture, I think you should be stuck with that culture, if that makes sense. When I pick Vlandia, and I'm conquering the map, and I recruit villagers, I don't really want them to pick up the characteristics of Sturgia. I don't want them to be in this Viking garb, and I don't want them to have a two-handed axe. Maybe I want them to have a fucking polearm on horseback. You know, I think it's a little weird, because if this is my kingdom and this is my army, I'm going to train you the way that we want our army trained. It just seems odd. I'm not just going to go, sure, however you want to do it, whatever works. Like, no, we live in a society. Come on, you're gonna follow my rules. You're gonna fall in line. And the reason I say that too is because I think it would add a lot more replayability. I mean, what is it? With Britannia, you have a 10% speed boost through forest or something like that. There's just not a lot of variety with replayability, in my opinion, because I can play any culture, recruit any soldier. It doesn't really matter. Like, it hasn't affected my gameplay ever. Obviously, there's other little perks, there's other things, but it's just not enough to move the needle. Lastly, I'm out of vacation time at work, so when the game drops, I'm gonna have to fucking shit my pants or something at work so I can go home and play it. And if anyone's interested, I will 100% be doing a campaign on War Sales, so you got to check it out.